Hello everyone, so we will be practicing GTO hands on the NL50 Cash Game 6 Max, and we're gonna be doing flops with any pre-flop action. First hand is going to be 5-4 suited. So what happened is we raised as a cutoff 2.5, we got re-raised to 8.5, and then we called, and now we get the 10-8-2. So we can play with a value bet here, or we can just go with a check. I prefer a check in these kind of situations. And now there is a 6, but what's more important is we got check behind, so this is kind of a weak range we're facing. So this is the exact moment we can start barreling here, so we can go with a 50% stop at first, and then we're gonna get check raised, so that's a sure fold. And we did what seems to be the correct move. The sizing could have been a little bit bigger as well to elicit a fold, but since we got a very big check raise, it was kind of okay to go small. But basically, yeah, we had plenty of options here, just not the oversized bets, unless until very oversized bet, like 2.5 pots, and then all-in wasn't a good idea, obviously. But then even like the oversized bets were kind of okay, just a little bit risky. So let's go with the next hand. We got ace 4 as the big blind defending against the small blind, and we got checked. So what happened is we got raised 3 blinds, we re-raised, and then we got called. So this is not a very weak range. I can have the kings and the queens, but definitely not like pocket kings and queens. So yeah, we have a reason to believe that if you hit an ace pair, it's probably gonna be winning their hand, even though they might have the aces as well. So let's go with a check behind, and that's a jack. So now they might have ace 10, but so do we, and we can go with either small, we can go, or we can do something like 3/4 to elicit a fold. I prefer to go aggressive in this kind of situation, just to make the flush draws fold, because what can happen is when we go small, they can just go and get a flush on the river. So let's try the 3/4 bet, and that's fold, but it wasn't a very good move. But better to go small in this situation. And 50% stop was okay, 33 was fine, bet was fine, even check was fine, but we were, yeah, basically we should have been a little bit passive in that spot, because obviously they can have nits here. So we raise with the a5 with the ace 5 with the small blind, and they just called us. So that might be a very weak range, but can be a marginal hand like king x. So what we need to do is we need to give a little bit of bet to probe them, and then see how they react to that. So that's the second king now. They might have the nits here, because the king is in the range. So we need to go with a check, because obviously they didn't fold on the flop, so we need to respect that. This is kind of a bad spot for us, having a flop bet and then checking out of position is signifying very weak range, but we can still do like small, like river bet, acting like a value bet itself, obviously, because what can happen here is we might have the aces, and then we would back off when we see the second king, thinking we're up against set, and then we can just like do some value betting. Obviously if they have the king, they're gonna know we don't have the knitted hand here. But if they don't have the king, basically they are supposed to fold. The GTO probably will call raises, and we need to fold here. So I think it was a mistake on the river, but it actually got approved. So let's see what happened here. We could have gone with a bigger value bet on the flop, so we kind of did okay. And then we had similar situation on the, but to see the percentages, like the betting is actually less favorable after the flop. From 42 on the 1/3 pot bet, it went down to 27, so we moved to the more like a preferable side GTO wise. And then what happened on the river is we should probably have gone with a check or a little bit bigger bet, I believe. And that's what actually happened. It was either check or like a bigger value bet, because obviously if we go with a small, it kind of signifies to them we have a weak range. Obviously not too big like oversized bet, because they might know that we're over bluffing, but generally yeah, we kind of went with the middle, which is also possible sometimes, because it can be neither like a very weak range, not like a very strong range, but they know we have something, and obviously they're gonna raise. But this is how we validate basically they have the hand. Okay, so next hand. It's taken a little bit longer for the GTO to generate it, and that's a raise from the bottom. Then we just call it, but somebody else raised as well, so this was a 3-bet. And then that's a must check here. No, actually the cutoff, no, the UG raised us, we're the button, and we 3-bet them. And then what happens is they slow play that hand. So okay, so we can have a strong range here. It's not like we cold call them. Plenty of options. I think 3/4 is fine here, even though the board is a bit polarized. Actually, it's like a small bet board basically, so we can go with a very tiny bet or a check. I prefer tiny bets in those situations, and that actually got us the fold, but I think it was supposed to be a bigger bet here. So what happens is we need the 33 or the 50%, but not too big actually. So small or 3/4 was in the accuracy zone. And let's go to the next hand. So now we are the button against the small blind. We're on flush draw, and we got re-raised by out of position player who we called to swap play, and they open with what looks to be 25%. So we can call here, that's one possibility. But I don't actually think it's a bad idea to raise as well. Like 55% we can do. And a very small amount in like a tight player against us, we should probably fold this one as well. Let's go with the call this time. So that's a 3, nothing changes. Out of position player is just checking first. We're gonna check behind and call a reverse, because this kind of shows their range is not very good. And this is helping our range, but now hey, that's either a fold. I'm thinking of a raise here, because yeah, they might have backed off because they could have thought we have the knitted flush, and then once they saw the river, they decided to go with yeah, let's actually calculate. So we have 34.9 flop and they're over betting 150%. So altogether it's 87.4, and then we have to give 52 to win 87.4. So the odds here is like 1 to, it's less than 150, it's more like one third, a little bit more than 1/3, like 1.4 basically. So how many times both catching would make a difference between calling and folding? Let's see. So 10, 7, so out of 7 times they, yeah, out of 7 times they need to be bluffing only twice for this to break even for us. If they're bluffing more often than not, basically, yeah, basically it's gonna be a word to bluff catch that one. I'll go with the fold, thinking that it's a very strong range, but I think it's a good idea to bluff catch that one. Let's see, the GTO is thinking. And thinking, and something went wrong. Okay, makes sense. It's not gonna tell us, but I think it was a good idea to blockage there. So we called with 5-4 as a small blind. We got a check from the big blind, and then what happened is we flopped aces and 7. So we can have the ace-x, they can have the ace-x's. It's kind of even situation, a bit polarized one. So let's go with 3/4 to find out how strong the range is, and that's gonna be a call. And when we're faced with a call, we might want to check here because we can have not the best needs, but can be quite a good hand with a straight here. And now they're gonna give us a little value bet, and I think it's worth to call that one, because obviously we have 4 outs, it's 8% chance roughly, and we also have blockers to their straights, like with ace, if they have like they cannot have the lower straight, but the bigger one we're blocking 5s and 4s for them if they need it, like 5-6 hands, like 6-4 hands, this kind of thing. So it's worth to call it. And then we have a 5. Now that's that's bluffable. So basically we got like attacked, like after we checked on the last turn, and it's pretty much like the spot we had earlier when we went with a small bet. It should have been 60%. Let's do this time, mixed strategy, and then we got caught, and it was a wrong move on the turn because we should have raised or fold there. This is where we went wrong, and it's not gonna tell us the odds on the river. So yeah, I'll take that. It was foldable, or we should have raised there. Here, raise with a draw, that's interesting. And it's not like with a backdoor for a flush, so that was kind of risky. Okay, let's go. Now we have the 10-9, and that's like a straight draw with a backdoor for a flush. There is another flush draw as well, it's 2-tone board. So we're a small blind, we are raising 3, we get re-raised, and then we call. So that shows a very strong range. And then we get half pot. Half pot is okay to call. Definitely not raise, but we can also fold here. Now we have a backdoor for a flush as well, second queen, and that's becoming quite interesting. I'll raise that. Like, we are very deep, we can just go in here. But yeah, that's jammable at this point, because we have how many outs? Is like close to 30-40%. So we need to avoid it like full houses. So what's the chance they have queen 8, queen 5? Very little, but like 4 of a kind, like the other 2 queen. It's quite unlikely. Ko is fine here actually. Ko is fine because they might have the pocket 8s and the pocket 5s. This is what we need to be very concerned about. If the flush doesn't come, even if it counts actually. So that makes it quite a reasonable fold here. For the sake of I would probably re-raise that one in a real game, but against the GTO it's gonna be a fold. And since I'm gonna be jamming it in a real game, let's make the mistake and get punished for it, see what happens. So we were up against kings, and that wasn't so bad of a move. Ko and a small raise here was better. So basically the reason I went with the all-in is we were deep and it was gonna probably get re-raised and still all-in. I just basically skipped that step. But fold wasn't okay here, it was like a blunder. So I was gonna do a blunder again. Even the GTO supports like bluffing this kind of line. And we should take it as a lesson. Now we have the ace 10, the queen board with an 8. We're under the gun player, basically we raise, we got called from the big blind defending, and Jen just check first. Well, we can give them 75. Don't like this kind of big bets here, more like a third value bet. Then we got code. Now we can just do another value bet. I think checking behind is actually a better idea here. And now we got a 7 and we get what seems to be a value bet here. Well, that's callable. It's a very tiny little bet. Definitely not raise well, because somebody can exploit it this way. And fold here, I only like the idea of folding against somebody who checked on the turn. Let's have a look what they have. 6s. So we did the value bet. We could have gone with a little bit bigger bet. Definitely not check. And oversized bets like 3/4 was not good as well. So we had a good flop read. And then check was the most preferred option, mixed with small bets and stabs, basically like 50 half pot and 3/4 were roughly the same EV, with going better on the side of the bigger stab because it's very likely to elicit a fold. And small bet was kind of like the small stab situation, either like better check or like go a little bit bigger. So polarized spot that was on the turn. What happened then is we got, so fold was possible, that was good. Raise was already negative EV, but could have been used in a mixed strategy because obviously bluffing. Just not too big though, just like stay within like the smaller like raise sizing, and then call was negative EV here, but was the most preferable option of fold. So we did alright. As long as we didn't raise small and get re-raised again, or like raise big and get called, we did just fine. Makes sense. Pocket force, and we're the cutoff playing against the button that 3-bet us pre-flop, and then we called them. Is the 10-7-3 rainbow. So we can have the 10x's, we can have the 7s, we can have the 3s. It's not a bad spot for us. And we probably want to put a little bit of pressure on his strong range. So value bet is okay here, because later on we can bluff with this hand. But check is also fine. It's standard checking range hand, so let's go with a little bit of value bet here. Probably gonna, oh, no raise, so that's good information. It helps the range here. There is no solution for this spot. Second time today. So my solution for this spot would be check, because it's kind of in their range, this king, and then obviously they're in position, so they might value bet us. So on value bet I would be folding, but if they check behind, I would probably do some betting on the turn. Not sure if I'm gonna do any card turn, like second big card probably is gonna be check. But if, let's say, we get like another 10-7-3 or like another low card, let's say we get the set on the river, I was probably gonna check and re-raise with the set. But then if we have sort of like if we get missed basically, but no like high card, that was probably gonna be like a small bet, like 20%, like 33%, this kind of thing, and then fold to a re-raise, but definitely I was going to attempt to steal it. And then we have king 5 with let's read it. So we are defending against the UTG, so they may have a very strong range, but let's see if they want to do some value betting. That's why we can include this strong hand into our checking range, and they're gonna do a very little bet. So we can either go with raise or we can go with a call, which is better here because we kind of have the nuts unless until a flush comes, but even then we can get the king, and then it's gonna be very tough spot for them. Let's go with a call. That's an ace, so we can either try to bluff the turn or we can go with another check, because obviously he went with a very small bet. Having a strong range with a small bet is against a recreational player. I would probably check here because they will just double barrel us quite easily, but against a good opponent they might not bet again, then they would probably just check behind. So we don't want to give them the chance to check behind, so that's why we're gonna go with 50% stop, and that's gonna fold them. So it was okay move, but I think was better to go with the check. Yeah, definitely better to check, but it can be done a mixed strategy with a small bet and a half stop to play this way on the turn. So yeah, this was reasonable. We even folded the pocket nines, which is a hand that the GTO would call most of the time, so I think we did okay here against the GTO, especially because obviously they can hit the set on the river and then we're gonna have a very hard time. So it was good defensive bet. Also obviously pocket aces would have been a disaster to try to value bet, so it was a good way to validate that they don't have it. But yeah, if we want to get more value out of it, we could have taken the risk to let them see the river or bet against us. That was another possibility, but not this time. We just stopped them and they fold. And that's the last hand. So obviously we only had like 8 hands today. because the GTO cannot even compute against us. Got confused. And I'll catch you in another session. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.